forecast to be a sweltering hot day today, so it's the perfect time to ride out to the mountains. If you're new here, then welcome to the channel. I'm Kimono Rider, and today I went on a group ride around Fuji-san in Yukata. Yesterday, I stayed over at Hellsvane's house so that we could ride out together in the morning to the meeting spot. We had our intercoms connected, and so most of the ride over to the meeting place was spent yapping. It had already started getting warm when we left, so it was nice to feel the wind when we were moving, but really uncomfortable when we were stopped in full sun in traffic, which I haven't included much of, but there was a lot of traffic just getting to this point. On the bridge over the Sagami River, we noticed this rider with an interesting looking bike behind us. So I tried to say hi and talk to them, but it was basically impossible for either of us to hear each other in our helmets. I pulled up to the meeting spot, which was this family mart with a massively long parking area, and when I checked my phone, I saw that my father had sent me a panicked message after seeing the video from yesterday. So this is today's PSA that I am always wearing motorcycle protective gear, even though you can't see it. We bought some cold drinks and then set off on our ride. We were supposed to be a group of 5, but one other rider pulled out at the last minute, so we ended up being just 4, which was actually a really nice size. I had ridden with Hellsvane and one of the other riders, Greg, before, but it was the first time riding with the third person, Will. At first, I thought it was nice to have another 250 in the group because the other 2 are on all-gata bikes, but I quickly realized that I was still outclassed in power and especially in acceleration speed. Nobody abandoned me though, and I think we maintained a good pace through the day. That's coming from the slowest rider in the group though, so maybe don't take my word for it. On the way to our first stop, it started to rain lightly off and on, which helped cool the air down a bit. Will was in the lead but didn't have the route on his GPS, and he wasn't connected to our intercom group, so it was old-fashioned signaling here, but he worked it out. This first stop was Cape Observatory in Miyagase, where we observed the Cape for a few minutes, and we had a chat after riding together for the first time, almost entirely about our bikes and the routes.
I love how we're kind of organized based on size, but not quite on power.
Then we were back on the road, and I was in third position. As we were driving along, we passed this town decorated in Chochin for a summer festival. It's a shame the weather was so overcast because it must look really cheery on a clear day and even nicer lit up at night. At this point, I was getting a bit worried about how dark the clouds were getting, and then it started to rain properly as we entered this forested part, so I took it slow and didn't worry about keeping up with the others while it was slippery and just rode at my own pace. I took these hairpin turns painfully slowly because the road surface was so boro-boro. The other guys are so far ahead of me at this point, but we're fine. Hellsvane was stuck behind me going at my pace, but he was chill and I didn't feel pressured to drive faster than I was comfortable. And maybe it was a good thing that I did keep my distance, because this stop sign came out of nowhere. I've ridden this road several times now, and from here is where the curves would usually start to get really fun, except the cars ahead of us were moving super slowly, so we just backed off and took it slower than usual. Maybe that was for the best, because this rain was not easing up and I got to enjoy the bridges. We're getting ready to pull into the Michi no Eki at Doshi, which is a really popular area for riders and one of my favorite motorcycle routes, which I learned about through Hellsvane. If you want to see a whole festival of motorcycles, I recommend going there during the day on a sunny weekend. Of course, today was a wet weekday, so there weren't as many people. It started raining lightly again when we pulled up, but we still had a nice walk around. When we pulled out of the roadside station, the plan was originally to go left and take our normal route towards Fujisan, but Greg suggested that we go right and take a new route instead, so we wiggled into the right turn lane and set off again. We had to backtrack somewhat at first, but then we had this beautifully curvy but very wet road to ourselves. I'm not familiar with this road, so I wasn't feeling very brave in the wet conditions and just kept at my own pace. For the first time today, I was able to get off the seat and actually lean through some of the turns, which are my favorite kind of curves. It felt like the road was going to continue getting wetter and wetter, but at some point the rain just suddenly stopped, and I was left feeling humid at our third stop, which was a quick konbini break. We then rode for a while until the next break, and part of my obijime came untucked. But it's on the right side, so there's nothing I can do while we're moving. It's not long enough to be dangerous even if both sides did come untucked, it just looks silly flapping in the wind. I finally have a moment to shove it back under. I'll fix it more properly later. There were so many people walking around here and signs written in English. Is this that infamous konbini with the view of Mt Fuji above it? Or is this a different tourist photo spot? I can definitely think of convenience stores with nicer views, but I guess this place is simpler to get to via public transport. Suddenly we were on some narrow streets, so that must mean we're getting close to our next stop, food. I didn't have this impromptu route on my GPS, so I was just following along and didn't expect to see Lake Kawaguchi appear so suddenly. And I can't believe there are still hydrangeas blooming this late in the season either. We normally park 2x2 in a parking space, and I saw Will pulling up beside Greg, so I moseyed to the next space over and thought that was that. But then they wanted me to move my bike, and I wanted to see if they could actually lift my bike, like some earlier bragging had suggested. Anyway, after that enlightening example of how easy my bike would be to steal, we went into the Cisco Coffee Cafe. The menus were written both in Japanese and English, and when I asked about gluten-free options, they said that they could either do the meatloaf, bacon, and sausage skillet, minus the meatloaf, or yogurt and fruit without the granola, and so I went for that one. I can't tell if they gave me extra fruit to make up for the missing granola or if it always comes this loaded, but I was happy and the lemonade was really good too. So this is the end of part 1 of our ride today. I hope you've enjoyed coming along so far, and if you didn't enjoy it, I'm just grateful that you at least stuck it out until the end. I hope you'll watch part 2 when I finish it because there's a lot more riding left. Bye for now.